that you think came out of this season?
I think to me it's the bookends. There's the opening sequence of the entire show, episode 1, that I think is sort of so terrifying and thrusts you right into the action. Obviously, this is the abduction of poor Maddie Clements. I think that set piece is just viscerally so terrifying. It's shocking. It is also very much of the time, taking advantage of sort of that atomic age, the fear of nuclear fallout and radiation with our mutant baby. That stayed with me. And then I think there's something in the finale that we can't talk about that I think will really resonate with audiences. And the show builds to such a large-scale journey. The scale of the horror in our finale episode, I think, is pretty remarkable. I know it resonated most with you.
Well, there are a couple of things that resonated with me. In terms of like what is the scariest and most horrible visual for me from the show, it would be Hank Rogan being let out in chains, and falsely accused and thrown into jail, and his family helpless to do anything about it. So for me, that's a core horror of the show. In terms of a horror set piece, really, you Chris Chalk. In terms of horror set pieces, I also love, again, Ronnie Grogan. She has horrifying guilt for the death of her mother, in childbirth. And that set piece in 102 with her coming out of her mother's womb again, her mother telling her, "You killed me." It's all of that generational traumatic stuff, that generational trauma, that epigenetic trauma. That's what interests me. And that's what's so, that's what was so interesting about, having this 27-year cycle away from 89, landing in 1962. Because when you're talking about a creature that exploits fear and hatred in a community in order to divide, in order to subdue, that year, obviously, in America is ripe with that kind of stuff. So they let us go there, and we had a great team to bring it to life.
I'm curious about the opening scene. Barbara mentioned a little bit. She thought there might be pushback by HBO. It was just such a crazy scene.
Yeah.
Were you also expecting any pushback to that?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't know what the network is going to say. Obviously, they're amazing creative partners at HBO and HBO Max, but we really went there with that sequence, and so you don't know. But luckily, our network partners are as twisted in their sensibility as we are, and so there were really no guardrails.
Yeah.
It was if the story takes you there, if the emotion and the characters take you to that place, it does not matter how extreme, go to it. And so we had a tremendous amount of freedom and flexibility, not just with network, but also with Stephen King. Yeah. Stephen King was involved from a very early part of it. He read every draft, approved every piece of casting. So we had a tremendous amount of support and generosity, both from Stephen King, from the network, from everyone involved, to let us go to the places it felt like the story needed to go.
HBO has no ratings board.
It's not
anything.
TV.
Yeah, exactly. If anything, they told us go as far as you want, as long as it's emotionally honest.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. That kind of answers my question.
Oh, okay.
If you don't mind. You do the part. I'll come back to me.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I've been asking everyone a fun question because for me, one of the horror moments that is seared into my brain from when I was a kid is Pennywise and the Drain from the TV movie. It's just what I've always gone to.
Yep.
So I want to know for you guys as creatives, what was that for you that made you fall in love with horror as a genre growing up that is still kind of seared in your brain?
God, there's so much. I think for me, okay, so this is a weird and janky answer, but when I had no guardrails from what I was allowed to see from a very young age.
Same, I saw Pennywise.
Yeah, exactly, and I saw stuff even earlier than that. I at 6 years old, I went into a movie theater. My earliest memory of horror is being in a movie theater and seeing a movie called Prophecy from 1979. It's a John Frankenheimer movie. It's an environmental waste allegory about how we're poisoning the earth, and and this paper mill poisons a forest, and it mutates the animals, and you get this giant bear pig monster, which was essentially just a guy in a rubber suit, But I didn't know that at 6 years old, so I have this very distinct memory of the bear pig monster that's killing people in the woods as a result of all this environmental poisoning, standing up at the end and roaring at the sky, and it scared the living shit shit out of me. Now, after that, that was some gateway horror, and then I got into Phantasm. I remember seeing the Silver Ball coming out, and the Tall Man, and all those things. So a lot of things got me into it. I love the David Cronenberg body horror. The reveal at the end of The Brood, where the woman who's pregnant, the female rage is giving birth to all of these killer babies that are taking care of all the people who've wronged her. All this imagery is seared in my brain and helped give birth to our show.
I think for me, I'm really terrified of body horror. I think the idea of stuff happening to your body that you can't control is really kind of horrifying, and you just feel out of control. And
Like puberty?
Like puberty. And for me, it was The Fly. I saw The Fly at my dad had rented it on VHS from a video room before Blockbuster. There was this little place across the street from us in New York called Video Room, and I remember the cassette. I remember putting it in, knowing I wasn't supposed to see it, and my brain just melting. That shaped me. That shaped me in a huge way and made me, I think, in no small part, put me on the course to doing the kind of work I do today. But for me, it was that, and then also the It miniseries.
To this day, you vomit on your food to break it down. Yeah, it's a strange thing.
I don't know why I do it. I guess now we do.
It's a hand with the vomit.
Yeah, it's great. Oh.
Well, first of all, Phantasm, love that show.
Right?
Rocky in the second one, she's the reason why I cut my hair 7-8 years ago.
Awesome.
But I want to go back to something that you said a couple of minutes ago about generational traumas, because fear is something that drives this entire story in different ways. When we're talking about race, when we're talking about family, when we're talking about loss, what it is that really scares us, that's a really human thing, not exactly some sort of otherworldly fantasy clown that we can sub it with. So I'm curious to know, as the showrunners, where is the line for horror fans being able to digest something that's very relatable to them, loss and love and heartbreak and all these other things, and digesting that matched with fantasy escapism? Is there some sort of percentage so our viewers don't get overwhelmed? I'm 5 episodes in, or 4 episodes in, and I feel like this is a perfect balance.
Oh, thank you.
I do think that horror fans will be able to learn something and maybe touch a nerve a little bit, but not to the point where it feels exploitative.
Right.
Ever. And I think that's something that it's a little dangerous with it as a whole, because this whole thing is about fear and what really bothers you, which is something that's crazy human. Do you have a science to this?
The science is your collaborators. We were given real carte blanche to, delve into the themes we wanted to delve into specifically. And again, I said it before, but, we're in the cycle that takes place in 1962. America, Derry is a microcosm of America. You can't tell the story of America, you can't tell the story of Derry without what was really going on in 1962. And it felt like exploitation of fears, exploitation of hatred. Oh, that's the theme of the book. That's the theme of America, and it's relevant to now also. So we needed to touch on that. As to the balance of it, we didn't know. You don't know until you develop these characters, you see what they're dealing with, you put them in scenarios, and you see what happens. And luckily, we had collaborators, in Andy and Barbara, in our actors, in everybody who, they let us know. They let us know what's too far. They let us know what's not far enough. And we listened. We just we tried to build something that was entertaining and scary and honest, but had a little bit of substance, had a little bit of there, and we didn't want to shy away from the reality. We wanted to give horror fans something, we wanted to give them a roller coaster ride, but you can't shy away from what's really going on at a certain time. This easily could have been, this is another losers club. This is a bunch of kids who are, running away from this entity, it, and trying to defeat it in 1962. Bullshit. 1962 is very different from 1989. If you're dealing with a creature that exploits hatred and fear, and you're doing it in 62, go real or go home. So that's kind of what our North Star was.
I second everything you said. You cannot ignore the reality of America in 1962, because that is frankly what it would want us to do, right? It relies on forcing people to forget cycles of violence, right? People in Derry are numb. They're sort of anesthetized to the horrors around them. And that's part of its design. It's a part of the design of a lot of great villains in fiction and in reality, is to force people to forget, to try to make people disbelieve the things they actually saw happen in front of them. And so this is a show that in part is about memory as a sort of moral superpower, and a villain who's trying to force people to look away, to forget, to ignore the horrors, to not be horrified. So this is a show that is about a lot of things, but in some ways it is a love letter to horror. It is saying horror is valuable. There are some things worth being horrified over and about. And so that informed, obviously, the way we wrote this thing.
Yeah, and to be really clear, we weren't trying to make a polemic. We were trying to make something that's entertaining. We were trying to make something, fun, but also scary and genuinely scary in multiple directions. So, but you got to be honest.
Man, it's working.
Oh, good.
Okay.
It's working.
Good.
Thank you.
And I want to thank both of you because you both together answered every part of my question.
Great. Fantastic.
A good
Throw one
team.
more in.
Yes,
We have a
please.
second.
Wait, no,
Oh, you do have another one.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll hit
Sorry,
both of
I
them. We're
thought
not.
you were going for
So,
it.
Stephen King, as fans of horror, I'm wondering what your history was with Stephen King. I know mine. Mine was reading it in church with my friend reading a Howling next to me with our missiles, and that's probably why I cursed.
Oh, wow.
And all these things happen. But so, what is your history with Stephen King, and what is it like being able to actually go out and bring Stephen King's world to life?
You want to go first?
Sure. I mean, for me, it was the films first. I saw Carrie at a very young age, not long after I'd seen The Fly. And got really curious about that genre and that space because of it. And then I think when I was about 12 is when I started reading Stephen King novels. Carrie was the first I read, and just got obsessed and just started pouring through the canon. I was probably about 12 when I read it, and read it multiple times since then. And so I was a fan from a very young age, both of the books and some of the adaptations. And then I really had my first opportunity to work in that space on It Chapter 2. Andy and Barbara invited me in to help write that into production. And that, look, if that had been my only experience working on this franchise, I would have counted myself very, very, very lucky. And when they came back a few years later and said, hey, there's more story to tell. Do you want to help us tell it? It was just, it was a creative opportunity of a lifetime. So.
My gateway drug to the world of Stephen King was being far too young and watching a TV movie and seeing a little kid fly up to a window and talk to another little kid and say, come on out here, coming through the fog, Tobe Hooper's Salem's Lot. So that scared the shit out of me and the rest of America. And I went, who is this? What is this? And I just went hard. And, I drove hard into the paint. I dived in. I read everything I could. I became a constant reader, as Uncle Stevie would say. Just been following him ever since. So this is a dream come true to get to play around in his universe a little bit, to expand it a little bit, add a chapter, add a verse. It's great for that little kid who was a Stephen fan.
Fantastic, thank you. That was actually truly my first.
Right?
I didn't know it though until years later, because I didn't know Salem's Lot was. I didn't know who Stephen King was. I was watching that. And
That traumatized America collectively when that happened.
I watch way too many things. The Body Snatchers. Her question about one of the things that terrified me is that Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, Invasion of the Body
Oh
Snatchers.
my
Yeah.
God, it even
That's why I
freaks
asked
me out.
you.
The dog with the head, with the face.
Or I think of Pennywise in the shower drain. I'm like, absolutely fucking love. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for chatting with
It's
us.
been a great Stephen King.
Thank you.
I love
It was lovely to meet you all.
very much.
Thank you so much for
Pleasure
doing
meeting
this.
you.
Thank you.
All right, now I got to buy my kids too much stuff on the floor.